folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. My voice is a little raspy today. Had our big meeting yesterday, around 300 people showed up, and I did a lot of talking. I was there for about 13 hours, and probably at least half of that I was either talking to the group as a whole or with individuals, so my voice is a little raspy. I'm not sick, just really wore out. Today we're going to talk about the big news. The big news is the Federal Drug Administration's approval, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. Before I get started with that, I do want to mention a company that this guy is actually one of us. He watches this channel. I've talked to him several times. He's a good guy, and he's one of us. He's a veteran, patriotic, prepper, not a fake one. This is not one of them fake patriot companies. And what he did is he started a company making coffee, and I thought it'd be a good idea to mention him on here. You know, it's not about necessarily advertising. It's about supporting companies that are like-minded. We take our money and we buy products all the time, but how many times do we buy products from companies that we know we're supporting a company that thinks like us and believes like us, not one of these communist coffee companies from the Pacific Northwest or ones that are fake patriots? But this guy, it's pretty good. It's Expedition Joe, and it's more than pretty good. It's an extremely excellent coffee is what it is. But it's a good deal that you can, spend your money elsewhere and actually support a fellow patriot person. And there's a link down below in the description if you're interested in buying some Expedition Joe coffee. My wife and I love it. My wife said that she just doesn't really have any interest in drinking anyone else's coffee other than the coffee that I roast. So I just wanted to pass that along to you. Also, before I get started on the day's news, I want to give a shout out to one of the listeners and a personal friend of mine. Yesterday's meeting was in big part made possible and the success of it because of him. And he is known online and on this channel as Tribulation Prepper. And so if you see him make a comment, this is the guy that I'm talking about. And he donated some Silver Eagles. And we did a kind of a raffle there. Everyone bought a ticket, and the Silver Eagles were raffled off. And so we gave away 10 1-ounce Silver Eagles, genuine U.S. Silver Eagles yesterday. And he was the one that donated that. So I want to give a shout out to Tribulation Prepper because, and he really helped promote it, in his own way, contacting people, getting people to come. He helped there just kind of running the place, and he kind of manned the door and helped answer questions. So he's a close personal friend of mine, and just one of those kind of people that you just do anything for. So I want to thank him for that. So, yes, this morning, you're probably already aware of it. They gave the official thumbs up for the in the arm. Now, my wife and I actually, since this happened, we've both been trying to read through some of the official documentation based on this. It does appear, and there's some people saying this, and we're no experts, but it does appear that this isn't just a normal FDA approval. I'm not quite sure yet on the differences, if there is any, but officially, yes, it's been approved. I think it's probably, there may be some distinctions on how they approved it, but regardless, it's approved. And just almost moments after this approval, New York City announced that all school employees, teachers, and staff, you must receive it or else you're no longer employed. And they gave no way to opt out of it, regardless of your religion, regardless of health. There's no options to opt out of it. The president has also spoken today on this, and I'm going to go ahead and play this clip from him, and he's saying he's encouraging all private businesses, local, state, and local governments to make this mandatory. And the reason why he's pushing this right now in that way is because the Supreme Court has upheld that states, local governments, can in fact mandate a shot in the arm, but the federal government, not so much. So we're going to see a big push. The New York Times spoke of this, saying that now that this is approved, it's going to open the floodgates for mandates all over the place. So here, let's listen just for a minute what the president said.
A nonprofit leader, a state or local leader, who has been waiting for full FDA approval to require vaccinations, I call on you now to do that. Require it. Do what I did last month. Require your employees to get vaccinated or face strict requirements.
So did you hear that? It's mandated, basically, for companies, for states, for local governments. Please mandate it, is what he's saying. I encourage you, do the right thing. Mandate it. And if they don't take it, if they refuse your mandate, slap them with some very stiff penalties, is what he's saying. Now, this is obviously the big news today, but there is something that I want to show you that I feel is actually a little bit more important than this, in a manner of speaking. I want to show you a clip from Australia, a news clip. You're probably all aware of what's going on in Australia, or at least have a really good idea of it. It is absolutely catastrophic. You know, there was once upon a time that Australians had nearly the same level of freedoms that we did. In fact, I can remember growing up as a child, and the way I was taught about Australia is that it was probably one of the most American-like nations on the planet. And travel, even though it's pretty much on the other side of the planet, if you wanted to travel to Australia, other than the distance, it was easy to. And going there, while there was certainly some differences in culture, an American could blend in quite easily. And an Australian could blend in here quite easily. In fact, I've had friends that have moved from Australia, migrated here to the United States. And it wasn't that big of a culture shock. That's all changed, though. The first big change is they took away their guns. They gave up their guns. They foolishly gave up their guns. And now we're seeing the results of that. Watch this news clip. I just want you to listen. Take this in. Absorb the things that they're saying. Not just exactly what they're saying, but how it's being portrayed. I can't think of a specific movie, but I'm telling you, this makes me think of probably at least a half dozen or more of these 1984 type, futuristic, dystopian government movies. So just watch this.
The wrong thing driving our record case numbers. Among the most concerning cases, a COVID patient who's tonight on the run from a hotspot. Police and health authorities have issued an urgent appeal.
Anthony Karam knows he is COVID positive when he steps into this public lift. Already breaking so many rules, he doesn't bother to cover his mouth as he sneezes and splutters. The 27-year-old is still infectious but has gone missing from his Wentworth Point apartment. A warrant now issued for his arrest.
This 27-year-old chap, who apparently has expressed the view that he doesn't care less whether he spreads the virus, is one example of the worst of the worst.
There's little sympathy for anyone ignoring the health orders, even this group of teenagers caught partying after dark at the bottom of the North Bondi Cliffs. Herded to higher ground by Polaire's spotlight and speaker, the 8 boys were placed in handcuffs and left to explain a $1,000 fine to mum.
681 penalty infringement notices issued in the last 24 hours. More than 400 of those notices were again for people being outside of their home without a reasonable excuse.
Sideline Sharks player Josh Dugan denies lying to police when he was found a long way from Sydney. The 31-year-old stopped at 11:30 last night in Lithgow, where he allegedly told officers he was moving to the area and feeding animals before admitting to visiting a friend. He and a passenger turned back to Sydney, only to be pulled over a second time, travelling in the wrong direction. The NRL is investigating and criminal charges could be laid. It's getting harder and harder to hide if you're doing the wrong thing, especially in the construction industry, a crackdown following on from the recent shutdown. Workers sent home if their paperwork isn't in check.
It is a struggle, but it's it's just what has to be done. Like, nobody likes telling people to go home. They've all got families to feed.
Our cameras rolling on another random blitz in Marsden Park.
Authorising me under the Public Health Act.
Inspectors have asked these tradesmen to show proof of their QR check-in as well as identification and vaccination records. One of the men here is from Campsie and he doesn't have his documentation, so he's being sent home. He may lose a chunk of his pay too if officers follow through with a fine. Tiffany Genders, 9 News.
I really am having a hard time putting into words what I feel of watching this news clip of how these people that they're talking about are doing normal things. A few people have condemned the first guy that they mentioned, that he's in an elevator and he sneezes and stuff. Well, no one's in the elevator with him, okay? And even if he's got an illness and he sneezes in a public elevator, where's the crime in that? Does that mean that he loses freedoms? Does that mean that because you get sick, you no longer have any freedoms? That's kind of what they're trying to say. The other people, bunch of kids playing down by the water, get treated like criminals. A guy that just happens to be out for a joyride. Where was he going? Who cares where he's going? Has he committed a crime? Is there a victim to his crime? Well, if there's not, then it doesn't really matter where he's going. If he wants to drive around in his car and spend gas and drive to this town and to that town and go see a friend and go feed a dog and who cares? It's his own business, at least it should be, but that's no longer the way it is. Things have rapidly spiraled out of control. There are people trying to rise up in Australia. There's certainly a lot of, I wouldn't say graphic, but maybe the better word is hardcore images of people protesting where they're fully engaging the police there. There have been reports of the police shooting protesters. In fact, if I can find it, I'll post it here. There's a news clip of one of the representatives, government representatives, speaking out in favor of the protesters, saying that these people, they are doing what is their natural right, and is to rise up and protest against a totalitarian, overbearing, overpowered government.
Speaker, we swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other and fight to defend our rights and liberties. That is the Diggers' Oath, the oath taken by Australians in the gold mining town of Ballarat before they took a fateful stand against tyranny and what we now know as the Eureka Stockade or the Eureka Rebellion. This past weekend, men and women across this country took another stand against tyranny, and just like at Eureka, the authorities disgracefully responded with guns and Australians were fired upon. So for them and many others across this nation, I want to say I stand truly by them to fight and defend their rights and liberties. We have had enough of all of the restrictions. The restrictions haven't stopped the virus, and they won't stop the virus. Australia will have to live with COVID-19 rather than in constant fear of it. We, the people, want our freedom back. We demand that there be no more lockdowns. We demand that there be no more curfews. We demand that there be no more mask mandates. We demand that there be no more state border closures. We demand that there be no more privacy invasion with mandatory QR code check-ins. We demand that there be no more discrimination between vaccinated and unvaccinated Australians. We demand that our freedoms be restored. And I demand that peaceful protesters, patriotic, freedom-loving men and women never ever be fired upon in this country ever again.
The government's not slowing down there. They are pushing through hard and fast. There's articles in their mainstream news talking about quarantine facilities that have been built or that are being built in Australia. There are reports from individuals, from just people making Twitter posts and stuff saying that they're being told that the rumor mill is in state is that the quarantining in the house is no longer any good. Which if I want to mention that if you're being quarantined in your home, you're now required to put some type of big sticker or label on your house so that people passing by or people that might try to come up to your house can know that, oh, you're there under quarantine. And they're saying now that that's probably not going to be good enough because people aren't abiding by that. And so they're going to have to take those people and move them to a facility to protect them and to protect the rest of the community. And so this kind of stuff it's spiraling out of control so rapidly in Australia. We're seeing things maybe not quite as extreme, but certainly eye-opening in France and in Germany and in Canada. And then of course this kind of stuff has happened in China. The police in Australia have been authorized now to in apartments. If there's apartments that need to be put under quarantine, they have been authorized to seal the apartments up with the people in them. This is the same kind of tactics that we saw a little over a year ago in China, where they were welding apartment doors shut with people inside of it. And that has now been authorized. Police have been authorized to do that in Australia. Folks, this is serious stuff. What we're seeing in Australia, it's coming to a city near you. How long is it going to be? I don't know. But that is certainly what they're trying to do. And here's some proof of that. This is Bill Gates in an interview. And he's saying that America needs to emulate Australia. America needs to do a lockdown Australian style. Here we go.
Countries could get on top of the cases very quickly and be more like Australia than Europe or the United States ended up being. And
I assure you, this is what they want. They want America to go through this level of lockdown. We're starting to see certain areas head down that path. New York is a good one to talk about. Other places up in the Pacific Northwest, places like Portland and Seattle, on the West Coast, San Francisco, we're seeing towns like that start to kind of move in that direction. Even down south, in places in Louisiana and Mississippi, we're seeing governors finally kind of tipping their hat in favor of going down that path of extreme mandated and extreme lockdown measures. This is very possible where we're headed. I think we are headed that way. There could always be something that stops it, but it's certainly something that you should be aware of. And it's not going to stop when the current strain kind of vanishes away, because there's more of them. Here's an article of a CV22, not 19, 22. They've already got it a name, folks. Already have it a name, CV22. And it's worse. It's a new variant. It's so different, they've given it a new name, CV22. And it's way worse. And this is awful stuff. And so we have to keep you in fear long enough till this new one gets spread around, and then we're going to lock you down even more. How many more will they be groundbreaking discovery that there's a new strain, a new disease, more things in the arm, more jabs, more lockdowns, more measures? For months, we've been hearing from the World Economic Forum and other world leaders that we meaning they have to take advantage of this health crisis. I've heard that said more times than I can count from world leaders, business leaders, these big think tank groups and groups like the World Economic Forum. They're flat out saying that they have to take advantage of this health crisis. And here we are, just received approval, already hearing about mandates for it now because it's now officially approved. We've got the president speaking out strongly, encouraging companies, encouraging states and local governments to make the mandate happen, to force you against your will to put something into your body. Now, I said this yesterday at the meeting. I want to clarify. I don't have a problem with you choosing to do that. If you choose to put that in your body, that's your choice. It's your body, your choice. My problem is them forcing me and forcing you to do something that you may not want. You may not, it doesn't matter. They're forcing you to do it. That's the problem. That's the big hang up. Will we eventually see Australia-like lockdowns and mandates here in the United States? It's quite possible. Our leadership wants it. The people around the world in leadership want it to happen here, and they want it to happen in other countries. So we're going to start seeing, most likely, a push for this. Folks, start getting ready. Remember that DHS bulletin talking about all these crazy conspiracy people that could rise up and cause disruption and violence between now and November due to the health crisis measures. And now here we are, it's received approval. There's a whole slew of mandates that we're going to be seeing over the coming days and weeks that are going to be affecting a lot of you. How far will we go down this path? How far are you willing to tolerate? What are you going to do to prepare your lives for the world that we now live in? Because it has in fact changed. Don't live in fear, folks. Take that fear and turn it around and use it to become prepared. Become prepared for what you're going through. Get your house in order. Get your house in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because things are going to start changing. I think they're going to start moving pretty rapidly. All right, folks, thank you for watching. Catch you in the next video.